Chapter 11 The Wall September 1930. For the first couple of weeks, Slavko and I could only get the most disgusting jobs, like mucking the outhouses and the horses' stables. I kept my eyes open for our Silny and Auntie Chaka, but couldn't find either horse. I desperately wished there was a river I could jump into, because I was itchy and stinky and barely felt human. Slavko, on the other hand, didn't mind being dirty, and for some reason the fleas didn't bite him. The pay was just a ruble a day, and much of that went to buy food, but it was money, and we saved what we could. Finally, Lev came to us and said, "Good news. 2 people just left the brickworks. I'll put in a good word for you." 2 rubles a day, cash, Lev's supervisor, Comrade Campbell, said in stilted Ukrainian the next morning. "But that kid," he said, pointing at Slavko, "get him out of here. He's too young." Slavko stood as straight as he could and glared at the supervisor. "I heard you're looking for dependable workers. Try me for a day. If I'm no good, you don't have to pay me." The supervisor's sunburned cheeks crinkled into a half smile. "You may stink, but you're a spunky one. You are. Fine." Then he pointed at Lev. "Take these 2 and show them how to mix the bricks." It was back-breaking work, but a bit cleaner than our last job. A precise combination of sand, clay, and straw was folded into water in a large trough until it was the consistency of cow manure. The mixture was scooped by hand and put into brick molds, then stacked on pallets and taken by horse to an underground kiln, where they were fired to make them strong. Lev had given me the job of combining the stiff mixture with a long wooden paddle. Slavko wasn't strong enough to maneuver the paddle, so Lev had him metering out the components on a scale and pouring each in as I stirred. About halfway through the day, Comrade Campbell stood and watched Slavko from a distance when he came to check on our work. I was happy to see his nod of approval before he walked away. Our days were long and grueling, but when you work on a farm all your life, you get accustomed to that. I was grateful to have met up with Lev. Had he not guided us, Slavko and I might not have been admitted to the construction site, and certainly would never have gotten a job in the brickworks. We didn't have much here at the tractor stroy, but what did we need, after all? We slept on a piece of muddy cardboard under a tarp, and we tried to limit how many potatoes we ate, so we could save as much money as possible. The important thing was that we were alive and relatively free, and Slavko and I were together, helping our family. I hoped Mama wasn't too upset with us for leaving in the middle of the night without permission. But when we came home with enough money to pay for our travel documents, I hoped she would forgive us. My goal was to make enough money and be back in Flavinka before the winter wheat needed to be planted in November. Tate could do it with Mama, Tato could do it with Mama, and Auntie Paulina's help, but he would try to take on the bulk of it himself, and that would ruin his back. "Will we even plant the winter wheat this year?" asked Slavko. "Once Tupolev pays us for this year's wheat, we'll be going to Ternopil." "Will Tupolev ever pay us, though?" I asked. "It's hard to know if we'll be planting or leaving. The sooner we can make some good money and get back home, the better." The frenzied pace of construction continued all through October. What struck me most about Tractor Stroy was the sheer size of it all. Someone told me that there were 2,000 horses on this site alone, and this was just one of many giant construction sites all over the Soviet Union. I felt sorry for all the horses that used to be treated like members of a farm family, but were now being used like machine equipment. Their farmers would be horrified if they saw how the horses were treated here. More than once I saw a horse collapse and die in the mud from exhaustion. It wasn't any better for the workers. And I heard that there were 10,000 of us. From those I talked to, I knew that many had fled from the shock workers to come here. Slavko and I had done the same, but we were planning to go back. Lev was the same as us, making money to help his family get by. But that wasn't the situation for a lot of people here. From what I could overhear in bits and snatches, farmers were slowly being squeezed out of their way of life, one village at a time. I understood now why Alice's inventory was done. The goods taken from us were sold, and Stalin used that money to buy foreign steel and bring foreign experts over to help build factories like this one. It was the farmers Stalin slandered as kulaks who were paying for his 5-year plan. Wheat, people, horses, It was all being taken from us. Those who lived in the mud were mostly escaped farmers, but there were other people at Tractor Story too. There were the Communist Party officials and elite foreign specialists who lived in Kharkiv and arrived each morning by automobile or buggy. They were easy to spot because they were clean and fat and liked to give orders. There were other less important foreign specialists who lived on site in a massive encampment of wooden barracks. I was over in that area a few times, and once I peeked through the window of one of the barracks. Each foreigner had their own slat of wood to sleep on, and bedding too. There was also a canteen where they could get food, and a train car that had been rigged up as a shower room, and another for first aid. I hadn't been able to wash since we had escaped from our village, and I could feel the fleas squirming on me as I worked. I dreamed of sneaking into that shower. Once, when I was out by the barracks, I nearly collided with Comrade White. "Do you and Alice live in these barracks?" I asked him, confused. "These are only for the men," he said. "Alice won't move here until the apartments are built. She's staying with a school friend in Kharkiv right now, but I've been living here." "Thank you for suggesting work at Tractor Story," I said. "Slavko came with me, and we're both making bricks." Comrade White's eyebrows rose. "Good for you," he said. "That's hard work." "We're able to make a little bit of money, and that will help our family." I said, "When you see Alice, tell her hello from us." "I'll do that," he said, "and good luck with the job." Lev said that Tractor Story had to become Tractor Gavad by October 25th at the very latest so that its opening could coincide with the October Revolution celebrations. There was going to be a ceremony with foreigners, journalists, and politicians right at the Tractor Gavad. To meet that deadline, the bosses held competitions. One of the competitions was to mix 250 batches of cement in one shift. There were bricklaying competitions too. Imagine laying a brick in 4 seconds and keeping up that pace all day. And our team won 6 onions for making the most bricks in a shift. As the official opening of Tractor Gavad drew near, I thought of what it might be like to be a factory worker instead of a farmer. It would be nice to have a daily routine and steady income, but what I really wanted was the opportunity to continue in school. I knew more about what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be a farmer or a kolkosnik. I was anxious to get out of this country and live in a place with more opportunity. Slavko, on the other hand, would love to work here at Tractor Gavad when he got older. I always started early and stayed late so that Comrade Campbell knew he could count on me. Sometimes I got a better job for the day by doing that. The rubles added up. About a week before the grand opening, the final bricks we made were used to build a massive wall to surround the factory. I was assigned to help clean up all the debris and loose construction materials that had accumulated in front of the factory, and so I was able to watch the wall as it grew taller and wider before my eyes. When it was finished, Tractor Gavad was like a fortress, completely enclosed, with the only entry through a couple of guarded gates. 2 days before the grand opening ceremony, Comrade Campbell came up to me as I was wheeling off one of the last loads of construction debris. "You've been a good worker," he said, "and that little brother of yours surprised me too. I'll be sorry to see you go." "Thank you, comrade," I said. "I appreciate the opportunity you've given to me and my brother to make a bit of money. It makes all the difference to our family." "I can hardly wait to get back to my own family in America," he said. "I'll be leaving in a few days." "So soon?" I said. "Surely you want to see the first tractors roll off the assembly line." "That won't happen for another year," he said, "and I've got to get back home." Campbell's words shocked me. "But the grand opening is in 2 days. I thought the factory was finished." "The building has been completed, but it's just a shell. There's still a lot of work to be done before the assembly lines will be up and running." "Another year?" I asked. His words stunned me. "But so much has been taken from the country to build this. How will we farm with no tractors to replace all the people and horses we've lost?" "I'm sorry," said Comrade Campbell, and he truly did look sorry. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a roll of paper rubles. "Please take this money. It's the least I can do." I found Slavko sitting cross-legged on a sheet of newspaper back at our encampment, sipping water from a tin can. He looked as tired and overwhelmed as I felt. I flopped down beside him and said, "I have some good news and some bad news." "Tell me the good news first," he said. I pulled out the roll of rubles that Campbell gave me and set it on my brother's palm. "This is a lot of money," said Slavko. "How'd you get it?" "From Comrade Campbell. He gave it to me after telling me the bad news." "What's the bad news?" "Tractor Stroy may be nearly finished, but Tractor Gavad won't be operating for at least a year." Slavko's jaw dropped. "That can't be," he said. "They took our horses. How can we plant and harvest without horses or tractors?"